Children of the Matrix, Chapter 12, Why Humanity Keeps Repeating the Same Patterns. Why do civilizations keep repeating the same mistakes? Different time periods, different leaders, different technology, yet somehow the same patterns return: power, control, conflict, and collapse. One of the deepest themes in this chapter of Children of the Matrix is repetition. The idea that humanity unconsciously repeats patterns it never fully becomes aware of. And honestly, the more I reflected on this chapter, the more I realized this doesn't only happen globally, it happens personally too. In families, relationships, identity, trauma, because what remains unconscious often repeats. Let's go there. History is full of repeating cycles. Power rises, fear spreads, control increases, collapse follows, and then eventually the pattern starts again. That's important because this chapter asks a powerful question. What does humanity keep repeating? What clearly creates suffering? And maybe the answer isn't lack of intelligence. Maybe it's lack of awareness, because human beings often repeat unconscious patterns automatically, personally and collectively. This chapter made me think deeply about the collective shadow, the parts of humanity people refuse to face: greed, domination, fear and control, violence. And what's fascinating is what remains unacknowledged internally often gets projected externally. That's psychology. Because individuals and societies both repeat what they refuse to consciously integrate. And maybe the awakening begins when humanity stops denying its shadow and starts becoming aware of it. And in these times, we can all see the collective shadow. We can see those who are trying to control, those who are trying to create a new belief system through fear and repetition, okay? It's clear if you allow yourself to see it. This is the pattern that humanity is repeating, and they're showing it to us right in broad daylight. So as we look at it, this is what we have to remove ourselves from, okay? Another one is trauma repetition. It's another huge thing I felt in this chapter was this trauma repetition. People often recreate emotionally familiar experiences unconsciously. Families repeat patterns across generations. Societies repeat emotional cycles across history. And most repetition isn't conscious. That's the key. But right now we have that opportunity to make this conscious and bring this out and awaken. People think they're making free choices while unconsciously reliving inherited programming. That's profound because awareness interrupts repetition. Without awareness, patterns continually and automatically get created without awareness. This chapter also made me think about inherited conditioning. Beliefs pass through families, fear passed through generations, and emotional survival strategies repeated over time. And eventually, those patterns feel normal, even when they create suffering. That's huge, because many people inherit emotional patterns long before they consciously understand them. An awakening may begin when someone becomes conscious enough to ask, what patterns am I carrying that didn't begin with me? One thing this chapter really brought up for me: human beings often choose familiarity over consciousness, even painful familiarity, because the nervous system prefers what feels known. That's why people repeat toxic cycles, not because they consciously want suffering, because familiarity feels psychologically safer than uncertainty. An awakening often requires breaking emotional familiarity. I can really say that word today. which can be terrifying at first, but it's always where transformation begins. The deeper I sat with this chapter, the more I realized consciousness itself interrupts repetition. Awareness creates choice. Reflection creates space. Observation weakens automatic behavior. And maybe awakening is really the process of becoming conscious enough to stop unconsciously reliving inherited cycles. That feels powerful because awareness changes patterns. My biggest takeaway from this chapter is this: humanity keeps repeating what it refuses to consciously face, personally, emotionally, and collectively. And maybe awakening begins when someone becomes aware enough to ask, what pattern am I still unconsciously feeding? Because once awareness enters the cycle can finally change. Maybe history isn't only repeating because humanity forgets the past. Maybe it repeats because humanity hasn't fully become conscious of itself. If this resonates, subscribe and please share. I am walking chapter by chapter through Children of the Matrix, through consciousness, sovereignty, and awakening. And tell me in the comments, do you think humanity learns from history or repeats it unconsciously? Thanks for watching.